Welcome to Literary Libations with Librarians. And this topic for this time is one of our favorites. November is Picture Book Month. And I mean, maybe there's a librarian out there who does not love picture books, but I have not met that librarian yet. And if you're thinking, oh, you know, I'm an adult, I'm a grown-up, I don't have grandkids or kids in my life, picture books are for everybody. The art is incredible. They can make you laugh. They can make you cry. So I hope we convince you this week to go and check out the picture books at your local library. As we're talking, if you can't resist getting your hands on one of the titles that we share, the quickest way to do so would be to contact your local branch of the Monroe County Library System, give them a call, and the staff there will be more than happy to assist you. If you'd like to do it yourself, the website for our catalog is on your screen now, and you can request physical versions through our catalog. If you're interested, a few of the titles this week are available digitally. If you're interested in those, you'll see those as two different platforms. You will hear one referred to as Overdrive, and the app for Overdrive is Libby. So if you see one of those listed, Overdrive offers downloadable ebooks and audiobooks and also magazines. The other platform is Hoopla, and Hoopla offers downloadable ebooks, audiobooks, and also movies, music, and graphic novels. And the great thing with Hoopla, if you choose their instant borrows, and they'll have a little lightning bolt as well, there are never a wait for those, and multiple people can have those checked out at the same time. I am Jennifer Granuski, and I'm the community librarian at the Dundee branch. And our introductory question this week, since we're talking about picture books, is what is a picture book that you never get tired of reading over and over and over and over again? And if you happen to be a parent, you know there are those books that you're going to be doing that. And so I thought about this, and one of our favorites when my son was little was King Bidgood's in the Bathtub. And I didn't stop and look up the author, but King Bidgood should help you find it. And it's just got a rhythm to it. And I've actually talked about it on here a while ago, but it's King Bidgood's in the bathtub and he won't get out. Oh, who knows what to do? Who knows what to do? And the whole thing just has this whole rhythm the whole time, and you get to do different voices. And the pictures, the art in it is incredible and detailed and fun. And you know, why is King Bidgood in the bathroom all day? Like, what is he doing in there? So it's a fun book, and I could read that even now to my son if, you know, he would let me, but he's 13 and doesn't do that. So anyhow, so there's my, I don't know if everybody can see him, but Lehman's on the screen. So let's introduce Isabella Arnold, who is a processing clerk at, she is a sub throughout the system now, a former processing clerk who has moved on to different things. So Isabella, what is one of the books that you don't get tired of reading?
Well, we have currently been living on Little Blue Truck at my house. The cadence also is really nice in this, like the horn went beep, the engine purred, and we read that all day long. And I never get tired of it. It's so cute. And then another one that I really love is Duck Rabbit. I have all of my storybooks prepped, and my son just keeps coming over and sitting and looking through them because he loves them too. But Duck Rabbit by Amy Kraus Rosenthal, all of her books are amazing. And those two, I probably read them 60, 70, 100 times. And I never get tired of them. I enjoy them.
All right. Thank you, Isabella and Lehman. And also with us this week is Stephanie Winterstein, who is the Youth Services Coordinator for the Monroe County Library System and also does direct youth services at our Summerfield, Petersburg, and Ida branches. All right, Stephanie, what's a book you don't get tired of reading over and over?
So I read a lot of books at school and through story time and stuff, so I always like to read different ones to them. But when I think back to when I read countless times to my 3 kids who are all now teenagers, and if I said, let me show you this cute book, they would be like, no way, what are you doing? We, no matter what, without fail, every night we had to read Goodnight Moon. And that was all 3 of them. I don't know why. I think it's because they got to point at the pictures. They had it memorized. So really I wasn't reading, you know, we were all just kind of saying it together, but it just makes me like, it makes my heart happy thinking back to like when they would let us tuck them in and like read them stories. And I can't wait to someday, a long time in the future, read it to my grandchildren.
Thank you, Stephanie. And finally with us is our head of collections, Jessica Otto. And what book do you not get tired of reading over and over again?
So this is a title that I read constantly as a child and has just stuck with me forever. I always find new meaning in it. It is The Stinky Cheese Man and Other Fairly Stupid Tales, which is a Caldecott honor book by John Sheska and Lane Smith. I adore this book. I love the illustrations. So first, if you're not familiar with this book, it basically takes classic fairy tales and sort of reimagines them as to, you know, how would these stories that play out so beautifully and so well in fairy tale land, how would these really end or play out in the real world? And I am all about keeping it real, so it's one of my absolute favorites. It has stories like Chicken Licken, Cinder Rumpelstiltskin, Little Red Running Shorts, all kinds of fun stuff. I love the format of the book. I love how some things are like upside down and things are out of place, and it's just sort of a little off, and I love it for that. One of my absolute favorite things about the book is the character of the Little Red Hen, who pops up at various times during the book, and she is just simply looking for someone to help her plant the wheat. It's, you know, it is such an important thing. And, you know, I used to just think that was so fun as a kid, but now as an adult, especially now this time of year when I drive around and I see farmers in the field right now out there planting the wheat, I think of that Little Red Hen and I think, oh, there's somebody who could have helped that Little Red Hen. So never, ever will I get tired of it. I have a copy at home that I've read to my children endless times. It's just all kinds of fun. Highly recommend.
Thank you, Jessica. It's been a long time since I have read that book, but I remember that one and it is unique. 2 thumbs up. All right, and now we're going to share some of our favorite picture books, and let's go ahead and get started with Isabella.
So I had to really think about which ones I wanted to narrow this down to. And Lehman wanted to throw in an extra one. He brought me over Pat the Bunny. We read this one a lot as well. That's so awesome because I feel like that was one of the first ones that he could do every page. And it's like, you're so smart. You know to put your finger through the hole of the ring and smell the flowers. But that's not one of my formal picks for today. So my first book I'm going to talk about is I Can Only Draw Worms, which I guess I keep getting blurred out. Yeah, I Can Only Draw Worms by Will Mabbitt. And I love this book way too much. It's so ridiculous. It's really, really dry in its humor, which is, I think, why I love it. I give it to a lot of people as gifts, which I don't know if they appreciate it or not, but I'm going to keep on giving it to people. But it's just this, narrator. It's like, this book is about worms. I can only draw worms. Here's worm 1. Here's worm 2. They are both together. It's hard to tell which one is which. And it's just like super dry. And it's like, oh, here's this other worm. Oh, wait, never mind. That was worm 6. And it's just super dry, super funny, super quick. I love the illustrations, super minimal. I find it hilarious. When it came through collections, I processed it and I was like, I need this book. So we actually own this book, which is a big deal in our house, you know. We rarely own books, but because when you work for the library system, why bother? But that one is it. My second book is, well, since I have it right here, Dalmatian and a Digger, another wonderful book by Rebecca Elliott. And this book, well, normally I don't feel like I would choose this book, like in general, before when I was thinking about this, but this book has changed our entire household. It came in a library bag. My mother had sent over a bunch of library books for us to read, and I didn't think much of this book. I have read this book 300 times, at least. And all of a sudden, because of this book, my son is obsessed with construction. He only wants to wear construction clothing. He has all the construction toys. We can stop and just watch construction for an hour and it'd be all right. And it's solely from Dalmatian and a Digger. And it has a wonderful cadence to it, super fun language. It wakes up with Dugger, Dugger, Digger. What's that noise? Dugger, Dugger, Digger. It woke me up. Dugger, Dugger, Digger. Oh my gosh, it's a Dalmatian and a Digger. And immediately my son's like, hey, you reading my book? Like, he came right over. Is this your favorite book? Yeah. And so, I mean, he was a Dalmatian and a Digger for Halloween because he just loves it so much. And he's sitting and reading it right now. Yeah, is that your book? Yeah. Super cute. I mean, it's really not one that I would have picked up prior, but he's reading it right now. Like, he loves it so much, and so I love it so much for him. Uh-oh, where did the Digger go? You lost it. And so my final book is by, well, I forget who it's by, but the illustrators who I'm here for, Christian Robinson. He is the best. It's Gaston. It's about a little French bulldog by Kelly de Puccio. I don't know if I pronounced that right. But Christian Robinson is one of my ultimate favorite illustrators. I've talked about a couple of his books on here already, so I had to think, what book haven't I talked about? And Gaston was it. It's about a little French bulldog and his family of poodles that he may have been mixed up at birth with another family of French bulldogs and their one poodle, Antoinette. Who really knows? He's so brave. He's so awesome. And even though he lives with all these like foofy poodles, he's still finding his own way. And I'm in it for the illustrations. I mean, the story's great too. But Christian Robinson, my favorite. So great. All of the stuff he does. I don't own that one specifically, but maybe it will be here this holiday season. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe all I've bought is picture books for this holiday season. Maybe. Yeah.
I will say we do actually own Gaston in our house because I love the illustrations and I love getting to do my terrible French accent with Gaston because he has to go around in zizi poodles. Mm-hmm. And my son enjoyed my terrible French accent enough that when he got a stuffed animal of a French bulldog, he named him Gaston. So we have a stuffed Gaston, and I get to do my French accent whenever I feel like it, and I happen to see Gaston out of the corner of my eye. So there's my Gaston story. Thank you, Isabella and partner. And let's have Jessica share some of her favorite picture books next.
Okay, so if you are like me and you are a huge fan of the Ghostbusters, then you are over the moon excited to know that a new Ghostbusters film is being released in theaters today. So in anticipation of that film's release, MCLS added several new Ghostbusters books to our collection, including my first title, Ghostbusters, a Paranormal Picture Book. So this is the official picture book adaptation of the classic 1984 film. It reimagines the four original Ghostbusters, Egon, Peter, Ray, and Winston, as children attending the Weaver Hall Academy. Now at Weaver Hall Academy, they have lots of clubs for the students to attend. But Egon, Ray, Peter, and Winston, they've decided to form their own club called the Ghostbusters. Now their club just has one rule. If there's something strange in the neighborhood, they will be the kids to investigate it. The club meets every day after school in the science lab to conduct super serious, secret science experiments. And one day, Ray is late. And when he does finally show up, the smile on his face tells all the other Ghostbusters that this is it. This is definitely it. So they run out of the lab and head to the library, where there are spooky signs everywhere. There's books that are stacked strangely. There's some weird ectoplasm goo. The PKE meter starts to go wild. This is big. This is very big. And then they see it, an actual ghost. Do they catch the ghost? They run out of the library screaming. But there's always next time. So their classmate, Janine, she sees all this, what happened, and she is very impressed. She tells the Ghostbusters that she wants to join their club and to help them spread the word about ghostbusting. But unfortunately, the school also has a school safety monitor, Walter, and he finds out about this trapping ghost business, and he's just determined to put an end to it. So he reports it to Principal Yeager, who shuts down the club just when the Ghostbusters think that their ghostbusting days are over. Something spooky happens at Louis Tully's math club party. And then something even spookier happens at Dana Barrett's locker. What happens next? Will Principal Yeager realize the importance of the Ghostbusters? Will the Ghostbusters get to save the day and their school? Well, to find out, you're going to have to read the book. So, as a Ghostbusters fan, I was delighted by this book. I absolutely love the illustrations, which are just amazing, but also the attention to detail in this book, details that they've taken from the original film, characters and names of locations, and they've just wrapped up all the elements into this kid-friendly way to introduce your children to these beloved characters. So if you are a fan of Ghostbusters, read this book, read it with your children, and relive the magic of the 1984 film through a child's eyes. Now, my second title is also a book based on a movie. A Jedi You Will Be was released in 2020 to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the theatrical release of The Empire Strikes Back. This book focuses on the time that Luke Skywalker spends training with Yoda on the planet Dagobah. So much like the title, the entire book is written in what I call Yoda speak. And it is the story of Luke's training as told from Yoda's perspective. Now, if you're familiar with it all, with The Empire Strikes Back, you know that at the point that Luke comes to train with Yoda, he's had some training. He figures, yeah, I got this. I know this Jedi stuff pretty good. So when he shows up, he's just raring to go. He's a little impatient. He just kind of wants to get going on this. But then he realizes that Yoda is a pretty tough teacher. Yoda wants him to do things. He wants him to do hard things that he considers maybe even impossible. And so in this sequence, Luke's training sequence on Dagobah, we find what I feel is one of the greatest lessons that comes out of the Star Wars universe, that maybe not all of us are going to try to learn the Force so that we can go and, face off against dark Sith lords, but that all of us in our lifetime will face challenges that we may even think are impossible, challenges that we think are just insurmountable. But what Yoda teaches us is that these challenges, we think of them as impossible not because they are impossible, but because of our own perceptions of them being impossible. So Yoda says, we need to believe in ourselves. We need to realize that we are all capable of so much more than what we think we are. And if we believe in ourselves, if we push past our perceived limitations, then we will find a way to overcome life's challenges, no matter what they would be. So again, as a huge fan of Star Wars, I adored this. I loved the illustrations, and I just think this is such a great lesson for kids to read, especially in a fun way that connects to something that they might already be a fan of, and just to have it in the Yoda talk. I think, you know, Yoda, no matter what he says, it just sounds better in the way that he speaks. So much fun. If you're looking for a fun book, this is definitely one to check out. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jessica. I thought somebody else had spoken. I thought I had cut somebody off. So thank you, Jessica. And let's have Stephanie share some of her favorite picture books with us.
Okay, so this is really hard. I have so many favorites, especially, I don't know. And then when I have to like think of them, I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, which one should I talk about? But so the first one I'm going to talk about is I Promise by Lebron James. Now this one is just a very sweet, inspiring book. Like I said, LeBron James is a basketball player. If anyone hasn't heard of him, but I'm sure most of you have. But he wrote this book, and he was a kid growing up in Akron, Ohio, and whatever his childhood was, he wanted to inspire kids today to do their best, so to make these promises. So he says that he wrote it so that we can make promises to ourselves and our community for our future. So some of the things in the book would be like, I promise to ask help whenever I need it, or I promise to use my voice to stand up for what's right, things like that. I promise to be me. So there's like, it's really cool if like you would read this to a class, because you could read this book and then you could have all the kids come up with like a promise to themselves or to their classmates or to their, to their family. But when I read it, I really enjoyed it, especially with the way the world is today. I just thought it would be a very inspiring book. But the pictures are nice and bright, which I also like. So that was one of them. The other one is Dandy. Now, I don't know about you, but people in my household take their yard very seriously. It's like a sign of like pride, and there can't be any dandelions, and it's got to be nice and beautiful. Well, this is a story of a little girl and her dad who are lions, dandelions, and a dandelion pops up in the yard, and Daddy sees it and he's like, oh, I've got to get it. And he has to get it before the neighbors see it, because if the neighbors see it, like, oh, they're going to think bad things about his yard. So he goes out with his clippers and he's going to clip it. And when he gets out there, Sweetie, his daughter, is out there. And she's like, but Daddy, you can't cut it. It's my friend. Her name is Charlotte. So, of course, he can't cut it because he sees her cute face. But he's going to get it. He's going to get it once Charlotte forgets about it. So he tries to do it during snack time, and he goes out there and Charlotte's eating her peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or Sweetie's eating her peanut butter and jelly sandwich with Charlotte. And then he's going to go cut it during nap time. Well, when he gets out there, she has a little tent set up and she's taking her nap with Charlotte. And the neighbors all see this and they're like, you have to get it. And it's hilarious. They're all different animals. So he keeps trying and keeps trying and he keeps trying. And there's like some kind of power vehicles involved at some point. Anyway, at one point he gets out there and there's a picture that Charlotte drew with a heart with her dad, or I keep saying Charlotte, Sweetie and her dad. And there's a dandelion and her dad in the little heart. And he's like, I can't do it, because he doesn't want to hurt her feelings. And all the other animals, all the other neighbors see it and they're like, no, we're daddies too. Of course you can't do it. Well, as he says that, the clippers slip and he cuts Charlotte. I know. Well, then it's very cute because they're giving Charlotte like an IV and like little shocking things to like shock her back to life. long story short, she gets put back together. She's all taped up, but she's turned. So she's not yellow anymore. She's white, where you can blow and make the wishes. And Daddy just says, go ahead. And they blow the little dandelion seeds. And so their yard is then filled with dandelions. Charlotte 1, Charlotte 2, Charlotte 3, Charlotte 4. It's just the cutest. So definitely check out Dandy. It's a very sweet one. Then I can't remember which my other one was.
Bear's Bear.
Oh, Bear's a Bear. Thank you. That is another one. That's just a very sweet book. So when you're young, you probably all have had a little bear, like a stuffed friend, that you do things with. So you might play school with it. You might snuggle it. You might snot on it. You might do, the bear is very well loved. Well, this book, it wasn't what I was expecting when I read it the first time. But basically you see a little baby getting a bear and doing all these things with it, growing up, taking it to college with her, just all these things. And then eventually it gets put in a box, and it gets brought back out in a box when the little girl is all grown up and she gives it to her little girl. So that one hit me a little hard because my kids are growing up, and yeah, I had a bear that I gave to my oldest that she kind of has, but now it's in her closet. So I just think it's a very sweet book. It's very heartwarming. And I do want to make one special mention to a really ridiculous book. If you see my background, it looks kind of like an ass. Well, if you can see this book, not really, but it's Fluffy Mcwhiskers, Cuteness Explosion. Again, this was one that kind of surprised me too, but it's super fun if you're reading it to like a class or a group of people. It's a little dark, I'm gonna warn you, but it's so sweet. So whenever it's this is Fluffy Mcwhiskers, the cutest cat ever, extremely cute. The problem is when you see Fluffy Mcwhiskers, you explode. So watch you explode into like a rainbow explosion. Kaboom! So if you tell, like when I read this at school, you tell them like, okay, kaboom, and then they make the like kaboom explosions. And basically anyone that sees Fluffy explodes. Fluffy even tries to wear an ugly sweater and give herself a bad haircut, but it only makes him cuter. So then people explode. Goes to a deserted island, makes himself a friend out of a pineapple and a coconut. Like, then he has to eat them though because he gets a little hungry. Like, it just cracked me up. And the kids loved it, but they're like, wait, so what happened now? Well, at the end, I can't give it all away, but Fluffy meets a friend who also cannot, must be immune to this because it's the cutest dog ever. So they become friends. So the kids are all like hoping that there's a second book of like how the dog got to meet the cat. So, but it's a funny, little dark, but very fun. Like, kaboom, kaboom. Yeah.
That one is super fun.
Yeah.
I also have to comment on Bear is a Bear, because if nobody else had chosen to do Bear is a Bear, I was going to talk about it because it really is amazing because you pick it up and it's funny and you're like, oh, this is great. And then as it goes on, you're like, my goodness, this is so touching. And if you have an adult child who's moving on to that next step, whether it's college or moving out of the house or getting married or whatever it might be, this is such a beautiful book as a gift book as well. Also, the author pictures in Bear is a Bear are pictures of their bears that they had from childhood instead of a regular author picture. It's adorable. So 2 thumbs up for Bear is a Bear.
It was actually funny. It was actually funny that we had to choose that though, because my daughter has way too many stuffed animals. And my husband's like, if we don't get some of those out of here, he's like, I'm going to pack them up. And popcorn was one of the ones that he had went to throw in a bag to pack up and just get them out of her room so we can make space. And she's like, no, not popcorn. It was a whole thing. So No, popcorn is safe for future generations. But, you know, it all happened around the same time as I read this book. So
You're like, oh my goodness, this is my life.
That's right.
Thank you, Stephanie. And now for mine. My first one is one that actually just came into the library this week. And I can't resist a picture book. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to pick it up and start flipping through it and find out what it is about. And this one is Dorothy and Herbert. And I have it here. Dorothy and Herbert, who I knew nothing about. This is nonfiction. This is a true story. Dorothy and Herbert Vogel. She was a librarian, was a librarian at the Brooklyn Library in New York, and he was a postman. And they both loved art. I'm going to see if I can move my slide along here. And they loved art, and they lived in a little tiny apartment in Soho right in the 1960s, when Soho was becoming known for this pop art. I can't think of all the other words, but this bright expression, you know, just filled with colors and different ideas, and everybody would kind of look at it and think, wow, that's weird and out there. And Dorothy and Herbert loved it. And a lot of the art wasn't taken as seriously yet, so a lot of it was affordable for them. And so they would go out and they would buy art that they just loved. And if they could fit it in a cab or bring it with them on the subway and they could afford it, they would purchase it and put it into their apartment. And their apartment sort of became a gathering place for artists. And you can see the picture on the screen, both from the picture book and from them in their actual apartment. Their apartment, like the bathroom was covered with art, ceilings were covered with art. They had so much and they just loved it and they enjoyed it. And so they started collecting in the 60s, and then in 1992, they decided to donate their art to the National Gallery because that was one of their favorite places to go, and it's free. And so they donated the art, and they came and started packing up the art in their tiny little apartment, and the art in there filled 4 moving trucks. They think that they donated about 2,000 pieces of art, and I was just blown away. First of all, on a postman and a librarian's salary, that they're purchasing and collecting art, and they just loved it so much. Herbert passed away in 2012, but Dorothy is still alive. So she helped the artist and the writer as they wrote this. And she wrote a little note that they include in the author's note. And I just love what it says. Art can be fun to enjoy, to collect, and to live with for people of all ages. You don't need lots of knowledge of art to look at and just like a painting or a sculpture, just like you don't need information to pet a cat. What you need is an open mind. You can even make your own art. Have fun. And I just love that idea that art is accessible, that art is for everybody, that art is fun, that you don't have to go to a piece of art and understand it or know its meaning. You can just love it. So that is Dorothy and Herbert. It's fabulous. It's very quick. Always read the author's notes at the end of any nonfiction picture book because they give you a ton of information. So a couple other ones that have come through that I've loved that I'm not going to talk about, but because I love nonfiction picture books, I just want everybody to be aware of their existence. The next one is Nina, which is actually illustrated by the artist that Isabella mentioned, Christian Robinson, and it is about the life of Nina Simone. Again, if you had said Nina Simone to me prior to this book, I would have been like, the name's familiar. I think she's a singer. Learned so much in just, it's about 40 pages. It's amazing. Check it out.
They also have
oh, go ahead.
That Nina one, they have, Christian Robinson did one about Josephine Baker that was equally amazing. And the illustrations were amazing and it was super factual, kind of similar.
I'll have to look that one up. I did not know that. See, amazing picture books, and you learn stuff and you're like, what? I didn't know this was a thing in the world, and your mind is blown. I love that. Here's another one, Playing at the Border, a story of Yo-Yo Ma. Yo-Yo Ma he did a multi-continent Bach project tour in which he is hoping to cross barriers of culture, time, and language to unite everybody with the resounding message of building bridges with music. And he went and played at the American-Mexico border, and this story is about that. And it's, again, amazing, and I didn't know that it had happened, and this picture book told me about it. And finally, Unspeakable, the Tulsa Race Massacre by the amazing illustrator Floyd Cooper, who passed away this year. If you haven't read this one, you need to. If you don't know about the Tulsa Massacre, I'll be honest, until last year, I did not know about it. I was completely unaware, missed that in history, or it wasn't taught. And this book will give you an overview. The illustrations are amazing. I heard I think it was the author speak about the illustrations that he did and how each of the different characters, the daughter's reaching for the father's hand, the father's looking back or forward, trying to protect his family and see what they've lost, the mother's protecting her child, and that child's eyes, just incredible. So yes, probably not going to read it to your youngest children, but kids can take in a lot and they can understand a lot, and they can understand that we don't want this repeated in our history. So there's my amazing nonfiction stuff that has come through this year. The collections department does a great job in getting a wide variety of picture books out there. So my next one is Bear Wants to Sing. And this bear's face, I'm going to go back to my slides here for a minute. Bear wants to sing. He's wandering through the forest and he happens upon a ukulele. Give me just a second. Let me share my screen. Bear's face in this is the most adorable thing ever. There's Bear. Look at Bear. He's wandering. He's taking a walk. He finds something in the grass. He picks it up. He plucks it. Plink. He's got himself a ukulele. He's so excited. He wants to go and tell all the animals in the forest. He's going to write a song. He's going to share a song with them. And he goes to tell them. And he goes to tell Crow. And Crow finds a tambourine and sings her own song. And then he goes to tell Snake. And Snake finds a drum and sings his own song. And then he goes to tell Turtle. And Turtle's found a horn. And everybody's singing songs. And they have a concert. And nobody has heard Bear's song, and it is devastating. Look at Bear's face. Poor Bear. And here's Mouse, and Mouse is Bear's friend. And so Mouse takes them all to task and says, hey friends, we haven't heard Bear's song yet. We need to stop and hear Bear's song. And so Bear has his moment in the spotlight, and I am not going to spoil it for you because I think you need to check it out. But Bear's song is amazing. I mean, you read Bear's song and you are going to be struck right here. Unfortunately, the rest of the animals in the forest are not as impressed with Bear's song. They did not find it as enjoyable as I did. And so poor Bear walks away so sad. Everybody else has had their moment. He had his moment. Nobody appreciated his song, but he's got Mouse with him. And Mouse is an amazing friend and brings him comfort and lets him know that Mouse loved his song and appreciates how he expressed himself. So that is Bear Wants to Sing. It's fabulous. There is also King Mouse. King Mouse we can get through our statewide system. So if there's ever a book you want, we can almost always get it for you, even if we don't have it in Monroe County. But King Mouse is, again, about Mouse and Bear and the forest animals. And in this one, they find crowns and how that changes the relationships in the forest. So that one's fabulous as well. And finally, I think this one is my favorite picture book for this year, and that is Mel Fell. So it's really a simple story, but I think it's so creatively done. So first of all, as you can see, it opens differently than most books because you're opening it up and down. And I'll try not to tell the whole story, but here's Mel. And Mel needs to practice his flying. He's got to get out there. He's got to do it. And Mel is not particularly afraid. He's pretty excited about this. So he goes out there. He's looking down. He's looking down. There he goes. She goes. Sorry, Mel's a girl. Ah, she's falling. Oh my goodness, she's still falling. And she fell and she fell. And the squirrels try and catch her and she's falling. Oh my goodness. And she falls and all the other animals are very worried about her. The spider tries to catch her and she keeps falling. And all the little there's the ladybug. Oh no. And you can see Mel's getting a little concerned here. She's getting pretty close. Mel splashes in the water. And she goes down and she snapped a beak and she kicked her legs. And now she's back out and she's going up, 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 up. And I just love that. It's such, and she passed all the animals she passed on the way down. She passes on the way back up. And then at the end, there's a note about kingfishers, which is a bird that does exactly this. So I love the book. I think that's such a creative way to use the book as like a palette for the story they want to tell. And I learned something about kingfishers. I mean, what more could you want? And adorable animals. It's all there. So those are my fabulous picture books. Thank you to everybody for sharing yours. I could talk about picture books every week. Let's just do picture books all the time. Next time we'll be close to the holiday season. So next time we'll be talking about books that get us in the spirit of the holidays. And thank you to all of you for sharing. And thank you to those of you who listened. We hope you go out there and enjoy some picture books. Thank you. Bye.